Long before the first city was built, before kings sat upon thrones, and before men carved their names into stone, the world was a dark and endless wilderness. The sky was a vast, unbroken shadow, and the land beneath it was wild and untamed. In those days, people did not know the secret of fire, and they lived in fear of the night. Among them was a young hunter named Kora. He was of the people of the valley, a wandering tribe that followed the herds of great beasts across the plains. The people feared the night, for when the sun vanished beyond the horizon, the beasts with glowing eyes and sharp teeth came forth. No one who strayed too far from the safety of the circle ever returned. Kora had always been different. Unlike the others who accepted the world as it was, he was restless. He wanted to understand why the night was cruel and why the sun, the great giver of warmth, always fled. He watched the sky and saw the stars, pinpricks of light in the dark. He listened to the wind whisper through the trees and wondered if it carried secrets from beyond the horizon. One evening, after the hunt had ended and the people sat in their shelters of skin and bone, Kora spoke to the elders. "Why must we live in fear? Why do we not fight the night?" An old man, his face lined with age and wisdom, shook his head. "It has always been this way," he said. "The night is stronger than us. It is the way of things." But Kora was not satisfied. That night, as the tribe huddled together, he stood at the edge of the camp, staring into the darkness. The wind was cold, and he felt the weight of unseen eyes upon him. He knew that if he stepped beyond the circle of safety, he might never return. But something deep within him urged him forward. Taking a spear, he walked into the night, the journey to the mountain. For many days and nights, Kora traveled alone, moving farther from his people than any had dared before. He followed the whispers of the wind and the patterns of the stars. He climbed hills and crossed rivers, each step taking him into lands unknown. On the third night, as he rested beneath the twisted branches of an ancient tree, he saw something he had never seen before. Far to the east, atop a jagged mountain, there was a light. It flickered and danced like a living thing, a golden glow in the heart of the darkness. His heart pounded. The elders had spoken of such things in hushed voices, of the sky fire that sometimes fell from the heavens, of spirits who danced in the flames. Could this be the answer? Determined, Kora made his way toward the mountain. The journey was perilous. He fought through thick forests where unseen creatures lurked. He crossed cold rivers that pulled at his legs like grasping hands. At night, he heard the howls of beasts, but he pressed on, drawn by the glow atop the mountain. On the seventh day, he reached the base of the mountain. It was a towering beast of stone, its slopes steep and treacherous. Kora began to climb, gripping rock and root, pulling himself upward. The wind howled, and the air grew thin, but he did not stop. As he neared the summit, he saw something that made him freeze. A great black beast stood between him and the fire. Its eyes glowed like embers, and its fur was dark as the night itself. Its breath was smoke, and its teeth were sharp as stone. This was no ordinary creature. This was a guardian, a being of the ancient world, placed here to protect the secret of fire. Kora knew he could not turn back. He had come too far. He gripped his spear and stepped forward. The beast let out a deep, rumbling growl. It was a challenge. If Kora wanted the fire, he would have to prove himself worthy. The battle was about to begin. The beast towered over Kora, its dark fur rippling like a living shadow, its glowing eyes fixed on him, burning like the fire he sought. For a long moment, neither moved. The wind howled around the mountain, carrying the scent of smoke and the whisper of the unseen spirits that watched from the darkness. Then, with a sudden burst of power, the beast lunged. Kora barely had time to react. He leapt to the side as the creature's massive claws raked the stone where he had stood. Sparks flew as talons scraped against rock. The beast turned, swift despite its size, and swung again. Kora raised his spear, but the force of the blow knocked him backward. He skidded across the rough ground, his palms scraping against jagged stone. He forced himself to his feet, breathing hard. The beast was testing him, gauging his strength. If he fought without thinking, he would die. He steadied himself, gripping his spear tightly. This was not a battle of brute force. It was a test of will, the dance of shadows. The beast circled him, moving with the grace of a hunter. Kora mirrored its movements, studying its patterns. Every creature had a weakness. The elders had taught him that when hunting the great beasts of the plains. No matter how strong, every living thing had a moment of vulnerability. He watched. The beast lunged again, faster this time. Kora ducked, rolling beneath its sweeping claws. He struck out with his spear, aiming for the creature's side, but the tip barely pierced its thick hide. It roared, more in anger than pain, and lashed out with its massive paw. Kora leaped back, barely avoiding the strike. His heart pounded. His spear would not be enough. He needed something more. Then he saw it, the fire. It flickered just beyond the beast, its golden light casting long shadows across the mountaintop. Kora knew what he had to do. He feinted to the left, drawing the beast's attention, then sprinted toward the flames. The creature roared in fury and charged after him. As he reached the fire, he grabbed a long, sturdy branch from the ground and thrust it into the flames. The dry wood caught instantly, bursting into a bright, crackling blaze. Kora turned, the burning branch in his hand. The beast hesitated. It was afraid. The gift and the curse. Kora advanced, holding the fire before him. The beast, which had seemed invincible only moments before, stepped back. Its glowing eyes flickered with something new, something ancient, fear. With a final roar, the beast turned and fled into the darkness, vanishing as if it had never been there at all. Kora stood, breathing hard, the firelight reflecting in his eyes. He had done it. He had claimed the fire. But as he stared into the flames, he understood something. The fire was alive. It was not merely light and warmth. It was hunger. It consumed the wood in his hand, crackling and snapping like a living thing. It gave life, but it could also take it away. This was the power he had sought. A gift, a curse, a choice. He wrapped the burning branch in thick leaves and began his descent from the mountain. He had faced the darkness. Now he would return to his people and change their world forever. Kora descended the mountain with the fire clutched tightly in his hands. The night wind howled around him, whispering warnings, but he did not falter. The flame flickered but did not die. It was small, fragile, yet it held more power than anything he had ever known. As he walked, he felt the weight of his journey. He had left his people as a hunter. He was returning as something else. For days he retraced his path, crossing rivers and forests, his fire a lone star against the darkness. The beasts of the night watched from the shadows, but they did not come close. They too feared the flame. By the time he reached the valley where his people lived, the fire had burned low, but it still lived. The sun had set, and the tribe had gathered, huddling together for warmth, as they always did. Then they saw him. At first, there was only silence. His people stared at the light in his hands, their faces frozen between awe and terror. The elders stepped forward, their eyes wide. "Kora," one of them whispered, "what have you done?" The fear of the unknown. The people had lived in the darkness for so long that they did not know what to make of the fire. Some shrank away, as if it would consume them. Others reached out, their eyes filled with wonder. Kora knelt and placed the burning branch on the ground. Carefully he fed it dry leaves and twigs. The flame leapt up, golden and hungry, chasing away the shadows. The people gasped. He turned to them. "We have lived in fear of the night, but no more," he said. "This is fire. It is warmth. It is light. It is power." The elders exchanged uneasy glances. "The fire is dangerous," one of them said. "It eats everything it touches." Kora nodded. "Yes, but it also protects us. It can drive away the beasts. It can cook our food. It can make the cold nights warm." The tribe murmured among themselves. Could this be true? Could the thing they had feared truly be their salvation? The first Hearth Kora showed them how to feed the fire, how to control it. He taught them how to keep it alive through the night, and how to let it rest when it was no longer needed. The people gathered around the flames, feeling its warmth. For the first time, they did not fear the darkness beyond. The beasts stayed away. The cold was forgotten. As the fire crackled, the elders nodded in approval. The people's fear turned to awe, then to joy. Kora had brought them something greater than light. He had given them a new way to live. That night, for the first time in their history, the people did not huddle in fear of the dark. They sat by the fire, speaking and laughing long after the sun had set. And in that moment, the world changed forever. The age of fire had begun.